Believe it or not, the thing that I find more exciting in life to me than going viral on social media or watching videos get a bunch of views or any of that from my own non-business standpoint, out of respect for business standpoint, which is very much about hard work, work ethic, really going into an honest day's work, long-term effort. But from a non-business standpoint and a creative standpoint, what I find even more exciting that we don't treat like the shiny new thing that we treated social media is sort of these new frontiers of how people in nursing homes are treated today, how people in hospitals are treated, the potential for them to be treated better, the potential for technology to help medically diagnose pre-existing conditions, pre-existing infections, helping people to cure or get rid of the infection or clean up early. That to me is way more exciting. How health is being transformed in society. The balance, even for my own mental health, that I'm finding within like a variety in life, like having a variety of life to begin with, is much more exciting to me than videos continuing to pop the way that they had before or going viral. That's why you see me stepping back. That's why you see me not putting as much effort, because in a lot of ways, I'm exploring a lot when it comes to health and creativity in other ways and other facets. I used to be pretty big when it came to social media. I used to be pretty big on social media. I still have a presence that I could kind of jump back into based on kind of the work that I had put in. And then I stepped back. I focused on other work, more corporate work, went into high-tech remote work, freelance on-the-go work, and even in a certain lens, balanced approach, work-life balance. I went deep into work-life balance, and I have not looked back at this point. And I've never felt more grounded and more aware by doing this than I have. But there is this deep understanding and respect that the reason why we've treated social media like the shiny new thing that it was for one aspect of life that for a lot of us deeply matters, and that's business. That is work ethic. That is just the motivation to want to work hard at something, put yourself out there, make yourself uncomfortable. Like, there's a lot of respect that goes into that. I've done it a little bit with people in person and integrating them into social media. I've done that quite a few times in life with some serendipitous moments. Even with butterflies in my stomach, I've done recorded with Uber, found myself in relationships in person and integrated social media into those relationships, and it's actually helped me paint a bigger picture of who these people are and what they're about. And social media has helped me to expose who would have been distractions and who would have been integrations, who would have been moving forward and who would have been staying back, who would have been healthy to have in relationships and who would have been unhealthy. And I've done this serendipitously over the last 3-4 years with people that I would meet in my exploration in person, meeting them just outside in the crowds or at events, social events, or even just sort of these investment communities where it was sort of about nonprofit community, religious community, things like that. And so that part has been extremely grounding and helpful in the social media standpoint, and that's cool. But when it comes to things that are telling you to, for instance, be more aware of your health, watch what you eat, go outside more, and all the nuances of like what makes a healthy life, AI has not been met as the new shiny utopia thing because we've all been turned into sort of like plugged in machines in a way. AI is actually trying to unplug us, but it's more treated as a controversy. Whereas social media back in the early days, everybody was meeting online in a serendipitous way. And you didn't really need dating apps because people online would just meet in communities. And they would build relationships based on trust and conversation and then decide to meet up. It was really cool. And so social media back then was seen, we had all kinds, like we were very much ahead in minorities. And we understood social media for what it really was without the business component. In a relationship standpoint, in a life, this has to do with life in a sort of a parallel life integration kind of way. And what ended up happening in this way is we ended up finding ourselves doing this in a way that said, this is what it actually is, flaws and all. And some of us had a better understanding, I think, of it, and there was less pressure. Probably why I was a little bit better at the time at just enjoying it rather than feeling like there has to be metrics. Because I felt like this deeper understanding of it at the time. But it does feel like a bit of a cliche, doesn't it? Like a bit of a past love in a way, but that's from a creative standpoint, not a business standpoint. From a business standpoint, you'll want to be on social media. From a networking standpoint, you'll want to be on social media, especially if it's for business and work. Think LinkedIn, think Facebook groups, think even as something as simple as X Threads, formerly Twitter. Think something as integral and integrated as Gmail, and using email to bridge the gap in social media, and just having your network and email with the people you already work with in a hybrid level, whether it's family environments, school environments, religious environments, work environments. You get the point, right? We're starting to see social media as a society for what it means to integrate it into life, not so much the shiny new thing anymore. And actually, I'm kind of glad because as a minority being in the disabled community, we've been seeing this for probably a lot longer in some ways, and I don't say that as a brag or show off. I actually say that as we've been sort of sick of watching this go from the shiny new thing into what it is now, as we see it for the good it can actually bring and the way that people's mindset can either make it better or break it or whatever kind of a thing. And so what I find even more exciting is the experiences you can create without having to have a virtual reality headset, and even being a lot more people who are not in social media, who do not have the brain wiring that to like social media, who don't give a fuck about social media, who are probably not from the millennial generation, who are even from older generations, are using AI. That's what I'm excited about. And I've tried getting people from previous generations to be on social media and be more connected. And it's been a lot more of a different environment than being more open to AI. And I really, really have to thank shows like Star Trek. And I'm learning about other sci-fi shows that kind of are the origins of inspired AI, like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy or different shows like this. But there's so many more like that I haven't even touched on. There's books I've read over the years. There's God, like Fahrenheit 451 was even just the beginning. And then you have books like The Giver, where social media was really integrated into the kids' school. As they were getting ready to go to school, they'd be on video at the school because they were late. Like just different little aspects that you'd notice even from today. And that people, society is kind of doing today. It's like a prediction, right? And then you have books like 1984, which actually, the technology in that book excite me more than the fear that was being projected. So it was kind of interesting. And some of those predictions can be taken as truth as well, with a grain of salt. And I would caution, like, not to get too caught up on the paranoia. I mean, I've read a lot of books. Like, I guess my favorite book genre has to be a lot to do with science fiction. And I've seen magazines change over the years. I'm catching up on magazines at this point currently. And, my favorite way to read, believe it or not, as high tech as I am, I love a good paperback book. That's probably why you haven't seen me doing a whole lot of audiobooks and promoting all of that, because my favorite way to read is paperback in a lot of ways. I feel like I can take that more in a lot of ways. And I did get deep into audio for a while, and I still get deep into audio. I love audio reading now with audiobooks, Audible, and things. But there's something in my sort of way of living that I just love a good paperback. I've got the Rolling Stone next to me. I love it. It's something I've always read online, and I'm getting back into it. It's changed a lot, though, and I'm seeing what I would vibe with now. And it's kind of cool because I love revisiting things in that way. And so what's more exciting to me about social media is how our society is being impacted now with integrations including social media, but not limited to social media being the only integration. And really having a love for content that understands that, really having a love for content that genuinely, where the brand gets that social media is not the end all be all so much anymore. Maybe not like it, maybe be a little bit having to adapt to it, but who actually really deep down probably get it more than we would think because of just being multifaceted as we are. So I don't feel this endless amount of pressure to stop creating and not enjoy creating. I've actually been collaborating a lot more, but then I also don't feel this endless amount of pressure to be very consistent and lose the edge or the spontaneity or the creating for creative sake, creating for creativity's sake kind of a thing. And just really integrating it for the experience that this is. Nothing more, but nothing less. Not making it more than what it is. Going deeper for very personal, introspective experiences. And what's great about a lot of this is when it comes to, I talk about AI a lot, but when it comes to AI, you keep your privacy intact while going through the feedback loop. That's been my most favorite way now, is keeping my privacy when going deeper into introspection and then going deeper into things that I've never even talked about on this podcast, and then being inspired to do episodes with you and create and show these insights without having to give up my privacy anymore. That's been very liberating because I used to overshare and I don't have to anymore. I don't have to share these useless stories that don't really have a message to them. I've really had to refine what is my message when I create with you, because I want you to be here and not waste your time. I don't want to waste your time. But giving you stories in a way, I think some of those stories I've talked about with you have been very useful, but only when I've been able to find, and I've had to really refine this over the last 3 years, what is the message? What is the point of this, sharing this story with you right now? Am I sharing it because I want I want somebody to hold space for this story in my life, or am I sharing it because there is an actual point, a teaching point, a relatability point, perhaps? Nothing wrong with that. As long as there's a sort of connection point with you that you relate, that you learn. Because to me, that's the spark that keeps me going in social media just a little bit. For what it is, nothing more, nothing less. But even to the point, I don't feel like it's kind of nice knowing that in a lot of ways now, you don't even have to, like an 80-year-old, for instance, can pick up a device. It doesn't even have to be a smartphone, right? Wearable, or even just any kind of say a landline phone with all of that sort of integration from before. Going into an automated system, it's not just ChatGPT anymore either, but or even just the TV, for instance, or just any sort of device. Doesn't even have to be a smartphone, but it could be, right? It could be a flip phone with this. It's the next level to the internet, so this is any device. And this 80-year-old has no idea what social media is, doesn't really care, thinks it's dumb, right? But they could pick up this device, hit a button, and talk to it, and get all kinds of high-tech support and companionship and medical education for themselves through AI, or even just one of those things. If all they need is fun, if all they need is companionship, if all they need is medical help, if all they need is support, if all they need is therapy, and just get it. Not ever be judged. There's things from their generation that humans wouldn't understand anyway, so they can share it with the AI. The AI has records. They can pull up generations of culture, and then they could go about their life and figure out, what do I need to do for the rest of my life? Who do I need to trust? Who can I connect with? What can I do for a variety? And maybe this AI is telling them, go outside. Going outside will give you your vitamin D, your sun, your air, and encouraging them to just enjoy the walk for what it is and not to overthink it, or whatever it is, right? That's one thing I've worked on a lot lately, is just a variety in life, movement, a lot more being active over the last couple of years, but especially here today, this year, and a lot more cooking, a lot more experimentation in the kitchen, a lot more arts and crafts, a lot more in-person hangouts over shared activities with community, with others. Because AI is doing all that legwork for me nowadays, I can do the hard work that it takes in other ways to live a good, healthy life. I don't have to waste time on things that are making me more robotic. That to me is much more exciting than social media today. So I guess that's just it. I'm happy. I'm happy that I've found other interests now, to be honest with you. I didn't think it would go this far. I thought I would still hold on to some of the old interests that I had, but I'm genuinely feeling like life is our reality. is just becoming about me living life, and the story feels complete with you. The story feels told over these 5 to 10 years of just different podcasts and video platforms and channels. It feels told, it feels complete in this really deep way. I feel closure now. Closure excites me more than social media. And that could mean so many different things. This could be an ending, and I could just deepen my experience with AI, or I can continue deepening my experiences on AI with introspection and insight, just purely based on my whole upbringing, on my whole culture, on my past cultures, on generations of cultures. And then I can decide to create another episode based on a teaching, or I can decide to leave it here and find closure within it and just know that at least my story was put out there. At least I told a story. I didn't make any business success much. I've done collaborations in business with social media, but I didn't really need to really do the business success at this point. I think we're going into newer directions now, because I'm not necessarily good at all of that other stuff. It's not, I don't find it to be something that I'm good at. Like, there's nothing actually that I find wrong with it. I actually respect people who can do this. In a way, it would make my life easier if I found something wrong with it, because it would make it easier for me to understand why I don't like it. I don't find it particularly interesting to only do it in this way where, and maybe it's because watching a lot of like people who vlog and turning that into like, a business is probably all I've seen, and I've probably only seen part of what social media can do, so I might even be new and uneducated on a lot of it too. So I'm not saying this to brag or any of that, but what I am saying is that I'm okay with the fact that like none of this made me money like that. I've made money in other ways. I've worked in other ways. I've collaborated in other ways. I've supported, I've shared money in other ways, including social media, but not so much to the point where I've only stuck to one thing and stuck with it, to the point where I'm happy that I still have a lot to learn. I'm happy that I don't know everything, but that it's a newer approach to life, and it's a newer approach to what it means to just live a healthy life and have a good mindset. And we're living more and more of a hybrid life, which is kind of crazy. It's not really one or the other. You meet somebody online only, you meet somebody in person only. No, it's like hybrid. As you meet somebody in person, you're also meeting them online. As you meet somebody online, you're also meeting up with them in person. Like, it's becoming hybrid, and it's becoming both. And I'm seeing it in my own community. I'm seeing it in my own experience, in my own life. And I think that that's where society naturally magnetized towards. I've seen this over 15, 20 years ago. I've started to see this take place 15, 18, 20 years ago, to be exact. So to say that success or happiness, or just happiness is different than success in a way, and happiness should really be considered success, but just like successful paths of making something of yourself, it just really goes to show that this is more than one path, guys. It is not just set on college or social media and having to decide like, okay, I've got to quit this because now I'm in this and I'm doing the right thing, or I've got to quit this because this is old school and I got to go do this over here. No, it's both now. It's all of it now. It's more, maybe even taking more than one path. in life. Maybe you're doing multiple paths. Even if it's a slow hustle, even if you're grinding slow, you're taking multiple paths in life. That is cool that we can even do that today. That is cool that we can have a healthy life, have a time outside and totally dip out, have a nature walk, have a nature trip, and then come back and go and focus on experimentation in the kitchen and cooking, and then go and focus on getting into the high tech of it all, and then go and focus on arts and crafts, and then go and focus on crowded markets outside and meeting people and shaking hands, and then working within people and communities. It's really cool. We can have multiple paths of living, and we got to stop beating ourselves up for this. This is something that is actually pretty cool, and I see no reason to recreate the same experience that I've created and recreated over the years. I see no reason to feel pressured to continue that. What excites me more is an active life, which is perhaps what some of us have been trying to teach. Some of the more successful goats out there have been trying to teach, even in a different approach than me, or even in a different approach to life in all. But what really excites me even more is just the creative, the movement that life has to offer. If you'd only just go in and get some fresh air, go out and get some fresh air. Not in this telling sort of way, like turn off your devices, go outside, get off your phone. Not in some sort of telling way. That's not going to actually work. We don't have that kind of mind. This sort of moralization around get off your phone, go outside more, things like that. That's bullshit. That's like moralizing. It's more about what are the benefits. We have a mind. We want to see benefits from eating broccoli. We don't just want to be told we have to eat broccoli. So there's that, right? Life.